Welcome back to the Fire Podcast. Today we're joined by another great guest, Professor Kirk Knapp, MBA and CFA. He's the director of the Masters in Finance program at St. Mary's College of California and CEO of Mindful Learning Systems. He's built a fascinating career spanning technology, investment advising, teaching, and angel investing. So, Professor Knapp, thank you so much for being here and for choosing to spend your afternoon with us. So I kind of want to get right into it and kind of start with your background. Where did you grow up? What were your college years like? Anything you did outside of school and your career?
All right, thanks for asking the question. And just a quick note, I was director of MS Finance, not now. So did that for several years. As it turns out, I grew up in the Midwest, and about every 6 years, my father got a promotion. And each time we ended up moving to a different state. So I lived in Minnesota for 6 years. Then we moved to the Chicago area for 6 years. Then Iowa, and that's where I went to high school. And I thought I was going to go to the University of Iowa or Iowa State because we had a family, lots of kids. You save money if you go in-state. The spring, I was ready to go to an Iowa university, and my dad came to me. It was a 1-minute conversation. He said, "We're moving to Chicago." And I went, "Okay." And he said, "So you're going to University of Illinois?" And I said, "Okay." So that was it, and ended up going to college there and did an engineering degree. As far as activities outside of the classroom, I was always into sports and goofing off, going out with friends, hit the bars, of course, on the weekends. We had a giant open area like St. Mary's does. We played Frisbee and all this kind of stuff, and we played tag football, all kinds of crazy stuff. So we had fun. I did join a fraternity. Now, it wasn't really a normal fraternity. It was really to do good for the college and the citizens. So I don't know if we accomplished a lot, but at least we gave it a try. And as far as, so it was interesting because, again, sports, I lived on a dorm floor, and there were like 25 of us. One of the people there was rather short. As you probably know, most sports in America, being tall is good, and he was very much into soccer. And most of us hadn't really ever played soccer, but he convinced us to play. So the funny part, I guess it was a learning experience. It was a league on the campus, and teams were formed from other countries. And as you probably know, soccer is the sport. So we got destroyed pretty much every game. If I could tell a real quick funny story, it happened to be an African team, and these guys were super tall, we're just average height, whatever. And there was a basketball court next to the soccer field, so in the warm-up period, we knew we were going to get beat, but, we're just having fun. And these guys were over there playing basketball because they didn't care about warming up. And I'll never forget, there was a guy, he must have been like 6'6". He's 5 feet away from the basket, and he shoots. The ball doesn't even touch the backboard. It goes flying over the top of the backboard. And we were joking around like we're a bunch of, average height guys. We're like, why don't we play that basketball? So we only lost 15-1, but anyway, we enjoyed the sport. So it was fun, hanging around with each other, and it's all great people. And I did not do internships, but I did get a part-time job. It turns out we had, amazingly enough, a nuclear reactor on campus. It was for research, and I was there hired to design a circuit I don't even remember, calculate certain values that were coming out of the reactor. So for me, it was, I guess, the first real job I had and try to apply what I learned in college.
Awesome. So I know before you moved on to Berkeley, you took a little gap between your education. So what did you do during that time? What motivated you to pursue an MBA and gain some work experience? And did stepping away from school for a while help with your career transition?
Yeah, so I guess maybe a word of warning. I'm not recommending to people that they follow the career path I did, but to be honest, I was looking for, and I didn't necessarily know the answer, but I was looking for a job and a business that felt really good to me. Obviously, I wanted to make good money, and as it turns out, outside the job, I wanted to have access to great sports. When I got out of University of Illinois, I got a job offer. It was with a telecom company based in upstate New York. And it seems kind of crazy, but I had learned how to design at that time. Of course, technology changes, but at that time I was leading technology and designing circuits. And the company that I went to was working on a project to do exactly that, and they never put me on the project. So I was there a grand total of 8 months, and I kind of walked away going, okay, you go through life and you learn things.
Yeah.
So you learn it. You don't always get to do what you want to do, and the company isn't always successful. So I decided to come back to the Chicago area because I knew it, had lived there before. Got a service engineering job, so I wasn't designing products, which is what I really should have been doing. And I did that for a while, and I decided, I don't really want to be an engineer. I want to be in business. And then you might laugh at this one. When I was a kid, so happened I walked into 7-Eleven, and they used to have magazine racks. I saw Surfer magazine. I'm 10 years old looking at this. There's this guy in his blue-green wave. Someday I'm going to California. So when I decided to get my MBA, I applied to multiple colleges, but I figured UC Berkeley was the best place to be. Top-rated college, California. What could I not like about that? And I was interested in investing, so I was going to possibly go to New York, even though I didn't really want to live in New York. And there's actually a lot of investing around here as well. I didn't necessarily know that. But I thought I was going to business school to prepare for a career in investment management. And of course, we're in tech country. A founder of a tech company came up and talked on campus, and I just clicked. I said, that's what I need to do. Because I was looking at marketing and finance. And I said, I can go do marketing. My engineering background helps me be more comfortable with technology anyway, but I'll do the business side marketing. So that's what I ended up doing.
Awesome. So was there anything else that kind of prompted your pivot? I know you started in product marketing, later ended up in finance, teaching finance. Was that something that always maybe interested you a little bit more? Kind of fell into that later in life, or how'd that change come about?
Yeah. So I left out one quick point from the last, and it applies. Like I said, I sort of lived in a way, a second and third life. One was doing sports, so right here in Bay Area is one of the best places you can be, skiing and windsurfing and all this. And then managing my own investments. So I decided that switching to marketing, I could apply both of my backgrounds, the MBA and engineering degree, and I could still play the investing game for myself and have to be part of a business to do that, do all the sports. So I've spent about 20 years working in high tech. I worked for 6 different companies. And I don't know how much detail we need, but maybe I'll do a couple of examples. Even though I wasn't a manager, I would always look at what we were going to do, what our technology was in our company, what market we're aiming at, what do customers really want, what can we build that customers want and hopefully sell a lot of. And I'll be honest, I was pretty surprised at 20 years of doing this that so many times our company either didn't work on what they should have been working on, or they worked on something that wasn't really a good idea. And in the most extreme, it was a whole year. I knew the product we were making wasn't going to it wasn't going to succeed. It was going to fail. I knew why. I knew how we could have fixed the problems. Couldn't do any of it, and it failed. And one company, worst case, you guys have all heard of NVIDIA. I worked for Silicon Graphics. Not me, but my company designed 3D graphics. In early 1990s, about 1993, NVIDIA was basically a startup company. We were $4 billion in revenue. 6 years later, guess who's winning? NVIDIA. They wiped us out. And I'm not blaming them. It's business. We actually got to a point, 1999, where we hired NVIDIA to design our circuits for us. I'm like, are you kidding me? We completely dominated this market. We made so many mistakes. I did make a presentation once to one of our graduate programs here. I couldn't even fit all our mistakes on one slide. And I'm not talking little stuff like what color is your mouse, you made dark gray, you should have made light gray. I'm talking business survival changing decisions. And we made so many, we wiped ourselves out. It was crazy. I left there, so one quick story on that one. I was a product marketing manager, and I knew I had completely determined what features that product should have, which ones it didn't need and we shouldn't put in. And I continually got questions from people and suggestions of, oh, I got this great idea for a feature. And I always listened, and I always showed them I was writing it down, but I had 2 lists going. One was a list of, we're going to do these, another list of probably not. But I never told them the probably not. And so I don't think I ever heard a single thing from somebody that hadn't already figured out, because I spent tons of time back then. It was probably more in person than today. Today is a lot of social media, which is fine for marketing, but we had trade shows. I'd be standing there all day long for 5 days, 40 hours talking to customers. I found out pretty much everything they wanted, everything they didn't want, everything they needed, and then the maybes. I had that whole list, so that helped me define the products. In my company, one of our biggest problems was we did not control, and I'm not knocking engineers, they're very bright, they work hard, we need them, but they tend to put things into a product that they think are cool, but they're not connected to customers. That's our marketing job, is to define we do this and we don't do this. And maybe sometimes there's extra features and go, we don't need it in the first product, but if we're successful, we do a second version, let's put this new thing in, we'll put it in later. So unfortunately, my company was an example, and I think this is one of the reasons NVIDIA wiped us out, because they did the exact opposite. They had a 6-month cycle to produce products. It's crazy, and we were doing hardware. Software you can come out a little faster with, but we, as I measured for myself, and we had a big company, 4 billion revenue, all kinds of different divisions, different products. We normally took 9 months longer than our original plan, and then we didn't test it enough, and we put too many things in that we shouldn't have put in, so now it had more chances of failure. We took another 9 months to fix all those problems. So here we are with these products taking a year and a half too long to get to a point where we can just sell these things. I wasn't a manager, and I knew we had all these problems. By the way, I was marketing products my own managers had brought to market, and I kept hearing things from customers, partners, salespeople, competition. Why'd you do this? I had a whole list of that, and I said, ain't happening on my watch. So I changed how we did engineering. I changed how we did manufacturing. I changed how we did testing. I changed how we did marketing. My products came out the week we had planned to bring it out, and we almost never had a complaint about it. It worked almost perfectly. So I was blown away by, this is technology. You're supposed to have really bright people running these companies, and they're off zigzagging, don't know which way to go. I couldn't believe it. And I spent 20 years doing this. I kept seeing decisions, and I kept trying to fix them. Some cases I fixed them myself. One other company, real quick, it was a big company, about $1 billion in revenue, so established, it's not a Facebook, but, good sized company. And I was in a division that was newly formed, so our revenue was low. Most of the revenue was over in the big part of the company. We were in a different building, so we didn't even talk most of the time to the main part of the company. And I was there a few months. I looked at our marketing. I said, we got this completely backwards. And I said, we're changing this. I talked to my managers. They said, great idea, let's change everything. So my part of the company, we completely changed our marketing. I didn't know this, and I found out later. My managers came back to me. They had just been talked to by the big part of the company that had spent the last 4 or 5 months hiring an outside marketing firm to do, guess what, fix our marketing. They told my managers, you're going to have to change everything, and you're going to have to do this whole new way of marketing. Guess what? It was exactly what I had already done. Exactly. And I'm not complaining, but I got some snickers from my own managers. Like, the manager of the big part of the company acted like we're going to need 3 months to fix everything, and my manager's like, let's go get some coffee. We're already done with that. We already did all this. So they were laughing, but they didn't promote me. They didn't act like I was great at marketing or anything. And I'm like, okay, here we go again. So one other one, quick. It was a long time ago. PCs by themselves are not worth much. They need to run software. We didn't run one of the most important pieces of software. We had made a mistake on how we developed our hardware. I saw the problem. I was assigned to work on that thing, and I found right away we had a problem. I spent 18 months working on it. Not one single person ever on the team ever helped me. They just harassed me because I would keep coming back and say, we got this problem. Why don't we fix it? We'll sell more product. And they were complaining about we weren't selling enough. I'm like, okay, well, how about we fix this problem? So I got the problem basically fixed. Sales tripled in 3 months. And not one positive word did I ever hear from anybody about it. So I'm like, what is this deal? I mean, come on. So anyway, I don't know if that answered the question. Let's see. Also, pivoting to finance. Like I said, I was always interested in investing. And I just decided, maybe I could be an investment advisor. And at the same time, pure luck, close friend of mine knew somebody that had gotten super wealthy, like $30, $50 million in high tech, bailed out, said, I don't need to work anymore. He was telling my friend, I didn't know him at the time, he was telling my friend, I need help with my portfolio. I got all this money. I'm not sure how to invest it. And then I was telling my friend, I really enjoy investing. I manage my portfolio. So the friend in the middle connected us, and we've all three been friends ever since. I talked to this person earlier today, and he told me about the other friend. So we've been friends ever since. And so I then moved into, because I had left tech. I didn't want to work in tech anymore. I think it's great. There's lots of wonderful things going on, but I just said I just can't play this game anymore. I'm just so tired of doing the wrong thing all the time and not being able to control it. So I decided to get into investment advising. Tried that for a while and it didn't really fly. And so since then I've got enough investment capital and income I could take care of myself.
Awesome. Thank you so
Does that
much.
all make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was perfect. But yeah, obviously you have a extensive career in marketing, you have an extensive career in sales and tech, and you even have an engineering background, and then you ended up getting your MBA at Berkeley, and then you went on to complete the CFA charter. Would you prioritize one over the other? I know a lot of our students are considering doing an MBA, and a lot of them are considering doing a CFA.
Yes.
Do you think you would prioritize one over the other, or do you think doing both is equally as valuable?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's easier to have a picture. I can't do a picture here, but I call it the circle of money, or we could say a circle of life. And if needed, I don't know how it works, but I've got a picture in, my PowerPoints, whatever. There's a whole bunch of different areas, let's say, in finance. In the simplest terms, there's for-profit, mostly public traded, but also privately held companies. And there's a finance and accounting that goes along with that. That's a certain way of understanding and learning about accounting and finance. You have the investment banks who have a whole set of things that they're doing. Some of it is actual banking. Some of it is really tied to investment management in the sense of helping companies that are buying other companies. And it's a little bit easier to watch that process if they're both publicly traded. Not always, but usually the bigger company is buying the smaller one. In the process, what do they need? They need help with valuation and how are we going to merge these two companies? So that's a particular area of expertise for investment banks. Then you have obviously finance people and accounting people working inside those companies. Outside that, of course, we have the investment world. We're investing in those companies. So how do we invest in them? Does every single person want to go through hours and hours of financial analysis, decide should I put more money in Walmart or in Google? It doesn't work well. Most people have no time and no knowledge and no interest in that. So we have professionals doing that. So we have, in a sense, two layers of that. We have people developing the portfolios and then offering those as investments. So we have mutual funds and we have ETFs at simple level and individual stocks. Anybody can go invest in these. But then we have investment advisors. So to a certain extent, investment advisors, not everybody uses them, but they're there to help individuals and sometimes institutions invest. We also have institutions that many times develop their own investment advisory, family offices to support wealthy people. So there's ways of people that know investing and help people that want to invest. And then, of course, what are they going to invest in? Could be private companies, that's angel and venture capital investing. Could be publicly traded securities, which most of us have access to. And then they'll go through usually an advisor, although they can do it directly, they can go invest in these, what the portfolio managers are putting together. So as far as where, if this helps a little bit, hopefully that's sort of the circle of life. The MBAs make a lot of sense in investment banks. They make a lot of sense in the publicly traded companies themselves, or could be private. That's sort of the top half of the picture. The bottom half is more the investment world, and that's where the CFA makes a lot of sense. However, even inside those, they're businesses, and they need to be run like other businesses, even though they're not producing yogurt for us. They're managing investing or where to invest. So the MBA can make sense in that spot as well.
Amazing. So I kind of want to jump. We've done a couple podcasts on the CFA, and we have some people that are really interested in it. But I want to kind of shed light on something when we first met at the finance meetup, and you got right into talking about angel investing. And I wanted to know, how did you first get into angel investing, and kind of what qualities do you look for in founders of startups before getting involved?
Yeah. So great question, and I'll admit, 110% pure luck. We are, we had talked earlier, the Keiretsu Forum is the largest angel investor network in the world. In simple terms, what's an angel investor network for? Well, smaller companies, or could be medium-sized, that are looking for investment will often contact an angel investor network, and there's many of them out there. Keiretsu Forum happens to be the largest one, and it happens to be right over the hill from St. Mary's College. We had a deal for a while. Unfortunately, it's off now, and hopefully we can get it back. Our students here on campus, we had 2 teams once a year, could go present a business idea right to Keiretsu Forum as if they had a real business, and if they did have a good business idea, that's great. They would get feedback from Keiretsu Forum angel investors. We get pitches every month. We listen to people looking for money. We ask them questions. It's our version of Shark Tank, if you're familiar with that, but it's angel investing. And so I got involved in helping to coach people that wanted our students to pitch to angels. I did join later as an angel investor myself. As far as, does that answer part of the question at least?
Yeah, it does. And can you kind of describe maybe the difference between going to venture capitalists versus
Yes.
going to angel investors?
Yeah. So first off, angels, there's lots of similarities, but lots of key differences. So the main one with angels is, yes, we work as groups because we want what's called deal flow. You want to be able to see and hear people pitching to you. With an angel network like Keiretsu, most of us, like me, can sit back and just wait to see. Here's 6 companies we just saw a pitch a week ago. Here's the ones we're going to hear in October or whatever. And we can decide for ourselves. The main thing is angels and decide for themselves, yes, I'm investing, no, I'm not. And we have some teams that do due diligence, so there's a little more work if you want to do that. But we're not professionals at investing in startup companies. We do it for our own personal interest and hopefully some gain somewhere. VCs, that's their business. So they got full-on teams and lots of experience. They also tend to invest at a little bit later stage. Angels are a little bit more willing to take the earlier stage of risk. Ideally, you want to see a company that has great potential, already has a product or service, has been selling it, proves that everything's good. The product or service delivers the benefits. The company can make a profit. They know how to sell it. They know where to sell it, and they've already shown they can sell it. The one thing missing, so to speak, from the angel and VC perspective is I'm making up the numbers, they've only sold $1 million worth of, they could sell $900 million. Let's invest now and hopefully help them get to the $900 million. Now we got this, the company's doing great, and so are we as investors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's awesome.
And to one other point, to a certain extent, the VCs themselves are looking for deals. One of the ways they look for deals isn't just open market, because, by the way, it sounds kind of extreme, but VCs and angels to some extent same. VCs will investigate 100 to 200 companies to make one investment. They are very careful. And no offense to the VCs, it's a tough game. They're wrong about 80 to 90% of the time. Having said that, if they got, by the way, I was an advisor, one of our clients, I can't legally say the name, but they had started a very successful tech company and had a couple $100 million to invest. They were offered a chance to invest in Google. Pretty sure you heard of Google before. This was before they went public. I'm not making this up. That person invested $20,000. Most of us would have loved, and if we had the chance, we could have put the money in. They went public a little bit after that. About 4 or 5 years after they invested, that $20,000 was worth $12 million, 600 times as much. Today, God knows, I wouldn't be surprised if it's $150 million or something for $20,000 investment.
Incredible. Wow.
So when you get the win, you can walk around like you're really smart, and you got money. So I hope that helps a little. Now, the other part of the question, I think, was what do we look for?
Yeah, what qualities in a
Okay.
founder?
So I'm not going to give it all away because it's some intellectual property that's part of my business idea. But in simple terms, you can kind of look at three things. The biggest one for me, and I think most people, but it's what's called total addressable market. How big is the potential for this idea? It doesn't mean the company will ever get there, but you want to know it's possible. And there's no hard and fast numbers, but I've kind of seen it around the $300 to $500 million range. That'd be revenue, but you also need profit. So we could all start a $1 billion business real easily. You know how we could do it? Put up a website and we can sell $20 bills for $5. You'd have a huge business, but it wouldn't last very long because you ain't making no profit. So we look at total potential revenue, profit. Then we look at product or service. What did they create? Does it really work? Is it sellable? Is it profitable? Does it deliver the benefits it's supposed to deliver? And then this gets a lot of discussion. I tend to lean a little bit more to market potential and proof that they can get there to that high level, which includes product itself and some sales already, and talk back, yes, customers are happy and they're telling other people. You know, word of mouth is one of the best marketing tools. You want your customers to be happy and then go tell other people who need it to say you should be buying this thing, right? But there's a lot of debate about, and it's very important, the quality of the people. How'd they get into this? Do they know a lot about this business? How'd they come up with the idea? Are they completely committed? Not half-time, is it full-time? Is this their most important thing to do? And hopefully they haven't done illegal things in the past, and they've done, maybe not always, but ideally maybe they've already been successful at 2 or 3 other companies. You're like, that person knows how to run a business. Here's another chance, and they got a great chance of doing it. But you want to see all the different areas. If there's engineering, is engineering strong? Is management strong? Is the finance team strong? Does that all make sense?
Yep, that
Yeah.
makes sense. And yeah, we're definitely looking to getting that program back at St. Mary's. I think that would be a lot of value for our students. But you've also branched into entrepreneurship, which I know a lot of our students are interested in, with Raptor Mind Systems and Mindful Learning Systems, which seem to be educational focused. And of course, you are a professor in the MS in Finance at St. Mary's. So, what has motivated you to take on the entrepreneurial route, and why are you focusing mainly on educating the next generation of students?
Yeah. So I guess, so to me, high tech is probably I would say, the most extreme type of business. You can be wildly successful on the upside, or you can completely fail. And yes, there's some middle ground there, but so I felt in a way it was kind of a nice experience in the sense of you got to get it right. If you get it right, you win. If you don't win, like, you walk away and you got nothing. So as I mentioned to you, I had a lot of experiences where I felt like I could apply what I thought were very, very good business processes and ideas, but sometimes I was able to and I succeeded, other times I was blocked. So being an entrepreneur, you're in charge. It's all you, baby. So if you do well, great. You should hopefully get rewarded by the market, and maybe you got employees and they're happy. That's all good. So that was part of it. The other part, I think, was just things that I had been working on myself. So you might know this, in the CFA world, the content changes over time. When I did it, this is a while back, there's 9,000 pages of content, and there's about 3,000 practice problems. Well, if you're going to go pass those 3 tests, if you're going to go pass, so divide it out across those 3 exams, if you're going to pass tests, you're going to do a little work ahead of time. So I went through that myself. I wrote 100 pages of content just for myself. And it's part of how we learn. If we listen to something or read something, that's okay. But if we write down ourselves our own explanation, guess what? We know more about it. There were times I thought I understood something when I tried to write about, like, hey, I'm missing a little bit here. So I had developed a lot of that content myself, and then I was teaching finance courses, and I wrote some software inside Excel to give what I thought was a better way of displaying answers to problems. Whether that's intellectual property or not, who knows, but so I was kind of at the edge of entrepreneurship just being a teacher and going through the CFA program myself. So that was my first idea, was the Raptor Mind Systems. Now, for various reasons, I was kind of enjoying playing the game, but there's about 20 companies out there that are already in business helping students prepare for CFA exams. So to a certain extent, could I compete with them? Yeah, but is it worth it? And the market's a decent size, but it's not giant, so I backed away from that. The second idea came from actually teaching a finance course and how to get funding for small and medium businesses. I was amazed. I had, fortunately, a lot of business background that connected to it, but I could not find a textbook. I made a list of 75 textbooks on this topic. It turns out there's 25 different types of financing. Every one of them's different, and there's no one place you can go just read about them. You can't. Textbooks don't cover it, and I felt, again, maybe a little extreme, but I had a lot of business experience. I would check out these textbooks because I needed them for my course, and I would read stuff and I'd shake my head like they're saying something that's actually not very accurate. It just doesn't match the real world because the real world isn't a textbook. It's just not the same. The textbooks are useful. The more base the content is, like statistics, accounting, that's all fine. But when you start getting at upper levels of how do you make business decisions, which I lived with for 20 plus years, it's not the same game. So I ended up creating 95% of the content that I used in teaching that course. Took a while, my little chipmunk brain here, and I thought, I'm teaching, that's fine, but I could put this out in the real world and make a business out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of, wrapping it up here is, you've had an amazing career. You've done so many different things. But what's been most rewarding to you? Was it advising clients, building your businesses, or was it the time mentoring the younger generation?
Easy answer is yes. All the above. I really believe that we learn a lot by doing it. If we can apply it and be successful, that's, in a sense, its own reward. Hopefully it just feels good and you got a few extra bucks. You can order those double French fries you always wanted. But helping other people is important. It feels good. And I really believe that at a certain level, I'm being a little extreme maybe, but people that have been in business for a while hopefully have good experience and knowledge. The younger people got the energy. In some cases, like AI today, people might come out of college, they know more about AI than those of us that have been running businesses. That's fine too. But they tend to have a lot of energy, but not necessarily all that business knowledge. So to me, the economy works best if you have a combination of people with knowledge, people with energy, bring them together and have them work together, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yep. So, last question here. You've had the opportunity to work with a lot of students. What do you think students are lacking in today's finance, or like what graduates are lacking before entering the workforce? And then what skills and designations, or maybe even extracurriculars, do you encourage students to focus on to set themselves apart?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, hope I'm not overplaying this. I'm old school. You probably could tell I'm, didn't just finish high school last year. So back in the old days, let's say prior to social media, we worked in person and we learned a lot from just being around other people. We had lots of discussions. We didn't always agree, of course, but you knew that sometimes a combination of people is better than any one person, so you really want to work as a team. And I'm not blaming anybody at all, but I believe now we're partly, and part of it's COVID, we're more separated from each other. And I don't think that's the best way to fly. Are there advantages for being at home and doing Zoom in some cases? For sure, yeah. But I still think we need to be in groups in person and communicate with each other. So I hope that still works. I kind of came up with a little tongue-in-cheek phrase. I was helping advise undergrad students with their schedule, and then of course when they're junior seniors, they're thinking about how to get in the real world and work. And I said there's two ways to go through life. Excuse me, take your pick, networking and not working. So you got to network, you got to meet people. I went to a CFA event just yesterday. CFA Institute is great in the sense they have charters. We got one in San Francisco. I'm not sure if I don't think there's South Bay, but most areas have them. They have events all the time. You can go learn new things, and you get to meet people. You might connect with somebody you didn't even know, and all of a sudden there's a job opportunity right there. So I think that networking is a huge part of it. Internships, if you can. If you're getting investing world, hopefully you can find $5,000 somewhere and go work on investing yourself. Just play the game, right?
I like that. That's kind of what we're trying to do here at the Fire Club. Bring people together, encourage networking. Also what we're doing with this podcast. So I think that pretty much wraps us here on this week's podcast. We want to say thanks again to Professor Knapp. Amazing podcast, great insights. For those of you who are on campus, I think are you only teaching grad classes right now, or?
Yeah, I'm down to about one a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you guys are in grad school, you know who to take. So thank you.